Madam Chairperson, ranking members, I want to provide members with the committee what I think are priorities and projects that obviously benefit my constituency, but I think have good best management practices for water use, not only in California, but throughout the country. Last year, Democrats and Republicans in Congress came together to pass a very, very important bipartisan infrastructure package. I continue to say and advocate for investments in our infrastructure that we've been living off those investments our parents and grandparents have made a generation or two ago. This passage of this important legislation last year, signed by the president, gives us an opportunity for us to begin making those investments that are long overdue. We have that opportunity to leverage this not only with federal funds, but in many cases with state and local dollars. This infrastructure that we have throughout our nation is aging. We know that. We absolutely have to continue to invest, I believe, in clean drinking water and watersheds to protect water quality. At the same time, we need to invest in California particularly, but elsewhere, to improve our water supply, a reliable water supply to protect communities in terms of the need to produce food. Food is a national security issue every day. Putting food on America's dinner table is really a national security issue, and we should treat it as such. But we also have flood control issues that we have to deal with as well. The reality of climate change, I think, has made supporting more reliable water reserves even more critical. We all know Western states are again experiencing severe drought conditions. According to some experts, this year was merely a continuation of the so-called mega drought that's been happening for now 20 years. I believe it's the new normal. We average waterfall and rainfall and water supply in California on 10-year averages. And when you look at the 10-year averages, we don't have the infrastructure that tries to provide the balance on years when we have above average rainfall and snow, on years where we have below average, and we are in one of those times. California 2021 was the second driest year in recorded spanning and then more than 100 years since we've been keeping records. Repeat that. 2021 was the second driest year in recorded history in California. More frequent and the more intense droughts caused by climate change require us to plan, to adapt, and to rethink how we manage our infrastructure and utilize our resources for our food, for our cities, and for the environment. I want, with that in mind, to highlight a couple of proposed resources in my district to reoperate the Red Bank and Fancher Creek projects. These reservoirs were originally designed primarily for flood control purposes, but local water managers are now rethinking and have a proposal that would reoperate these not only to provide for flood control, but to maximize groundwater recharge in wet years. I know the chairwoman has done really remarkable things in the Southern California basin in her efforts to deal with recharge. This is a similar example. It's critical for improving long-term sustainability of depleted groundwater basins and for improving water supply reliability by having more water on hand in the dry years. And man, we are in those dry years. With ongoing drought and limited surface water supplies, we must use every tool in our water toolbox, to get much needed infrastructure in place. We also have the opportunity to use the Army Corps programs to enhance critical habitats for listed species, make ecosystem improvements to rivers and watersheds, such as efforts that we have been able to do in California. If done carefully and in collaboration with impacted stakeholders, we have the opportunity to not only provide greater water reliability, but also for improving and sustaining our agriculture, our food, which is obviously impacted by these drought conditions and the lack of investments. We also have an opportunity to deal with threatened and endangered species. In California, we are on the verge of trying a new approach to adaptive management in our water system, known as voluntary agreements. If successful, these voluntary agreements give us an opportunity to create more collaborative management structure to compare current regulatory efforts. This strategy would also avoid costly and time-consuming litigation. Being engaged in battles in courts do not resolve our water supply. This strategy would also avoid costly and time-consuming litigation, and it would also kickstart ecosystem restoration efforts that benefit some of the iconic rivers and improve our Bay Delta restoration.